right, Monday Night Football last night. If you were listening to us first thing this morning, when we came on the air at 6 o'clock, we spent the whole first segment talking about the NFL medical catastrophe last night with the Buffalo Bills safety, Damar Hamlin. And medical experts are saying that the next 12 to 24 hours are going to be critical. Everyone is talking about this. This is a massive story. This is unprecedented. It was just 5 minutes, 38 seconds into the first quarter last night. This game between the Bengals in Cincinnati and the visiting Buffalo Bills, this game was going to determine the lead for the AFC as far as top seed. And the game was canceled. I mean, when is the last time an NFL game has been canceled after 5 minutes of play or any? I can't ever think of this ever happening, ever.
Canceled, but essentially postponed.
Yeah, well, the game was canceled last night. Suspended, postponed. The game was canceled last night. Everybody go home. We're not playing any more football tonight after 5 minutes and 38 seconds. And this is after the Bills safety, Damar Hamlin, suffered a cardiac arrest. And we're getting, a little more information here as to what actually happened. Damar Hamlin's recovery, according to medical experts, could hinge on how long he was in cardiac arrest after the collapse, after what would be a typical tackle. But when you look at the replay, when you see what happened, he got nailed hard in the chest. And medical experts are saying, and my uncle's a cardiologist, I had some conversation late last night via text, and at a certain point during a heartbeat, if you take a heavy blow, if it happens at the exact millisecond and you take a hard hit to the chest, you can go into cardiac arrest. And do we know the full medical diagnosis of exactly what happened? We don't. At this point, there's a lot of speculation, and I've gotten a ton of email. I've received email from doctors. I've received, regular listeners claiming, hey, take a look at this. I saw this online. Let me give you an example. This is from a buddy of mine that sent me this, and this is a post apparently from a physician. A strong, abrupt hit to the chest can cause a cardiac contusion and even cardiac standstill. Knowing that he attempted to stand and walk after the hit, I would say it is more a cardiac contusion that resulted in a near-fatal cardiac arrhythmia. There are a number of cardiac arrhythmias that can cause the lack of perfusion that would result in a non-palpable pulse, as well as a traumatic cardiac tamponade, an accumulation of blood or fluid in the pericardial sac that restricts the pumping action of the heart. With that being said, sedating him, intubating him, and placing him on a ventilator is most likely precautionary until they can further investigate his cardiovascular respiratory status and the severity of any thoracic cardiac injury. Intubation is often used as a precautionary treatment. Anyway, we don't know the official diagnosis, but wasn't there word last night that they were going to put him into a medically induced coma to try to take his body out of a stressful situation? What are you seeing, Rox?
At 2 a.m., the Buffalo Bills tweeted that he suffered the cardiac arrest. His heartbeat was restored on the field, yep, and he's currently sedated and in critical condition.
Right. So if you're just tuning in, if you didn't see Monday Night Football last night, it was Bills and Bengals in Cincinnati, and 5 minutes, 38 seconds into the game, you had this safety for the Bills, Damar Hamlin, was involved in what would be kind of a routine tackle, and it looked like the shoulder and helmet of the number 85 Bengals player went right into the chest of Damar. And he stands up and then collapses, just falls backward like a rock, takes the hit, goes down, gets right up, and then is unsteady on his feet and then just collapses. And that was it. There was no more play in an NFL game last night after this. And the game was postponed for a long time. So I have the timeline here. The injury happened at 8:55 last night. So 8:55 Eastern time is when the injury happened. They administered CPR on the field. I've seen reports that it was 9 minutes of CPR on the field.
That's a lot of. That sounds like a lot of CPR. I don't know.
No, CPR can go on for half an hour to 45 minutes.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. You don't know that?
9 minutes just sounds like a long time.
9 minutes is a long time when you're in crisis. I would feel like
absolutely. But it is not uncommon for doctors and nurses to try to save a patient with CPR. Doing chest compressions for 20, 30, 40 minutes. I think Michelle read something last night that there are situations where CPR is recommended for like 45 minutes before they'll actually either revive a patient or call it that they've lost the patient. So 8:55 is when the injury happened. Left in the ambulance at 9:25. They backed an ambulance onto the field. And then the game was suspended by the NFL at 10:01 is when the official NFL decision came. So this was an hour of downtime. This is, network television. This is ESPN, ABC network. And you had an hour that they were filling, over an hour. And you saw all the subdued, shock on the play-by-play. You had Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. They were calling the game. Then you had the team like Susie Colbert and Booger McFarland, back at the ESPN studios. And it was tense. And Michelle and I are watching this, and you could see players on the field were crying.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going on. You know how many people thought that maybe he had died?
Well, yeah, figure these players on the field. They're huddled around their teammate, and they're hearing what the medical personnel is saying. And if they overheard one of them say, "Hey, we have no heartbeat," how quickly does that spread amongst the players? Instantly, they assume the absolute worst. When somebody says there's no heartbeat, that's not a good sign. So the players were emotionally distraught at that time, obviously.
A lot of the Bills left on the team plane last night.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of the teams use Delta. So a lot of the players, a lot of the team, they did leave Cincinnati last night to go back to Buffalo. However, there are some players that did stay in Cincinnati to be at the hospital. Let's see. NFL.
Stephon Diggs, Bills receiver.
Yeah, so I have that. That's one of the names that I have.
So he took an Uber to the hospital, and he got there, and a police officer on site didn't want to let him in, but then there was an ESPN reporter who was there. Was like, no, this is one of his teammates. Let him in.
Unitard, who used to be on the MJ Morning Show, one of our great interns at the time, we called him Unitard, if you remember the name. He texted me early this morning that Bill's top wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, he did stay in Cincinnati to be near Hamlin at the hospital.
Yes.
And then you said that they didn't want to let him in?
The cops didn't want to let him in because they didn't know who he was. But then
you know what happened?
Another reporter there who's like, no, he's his teammate.
If folks that are listening want to weigh in on this, if anyone listening has any comments, if you were watching this last night, if you're a medical professional, are you a doctor? Are you a cardiac nurse? Are you a cardiologist? If you have any experience in the medical field and you want to give us some insight, give us a buzz. 800-990-1047. 800-990-1047 is how you get in. 800-990-1047. I'm giving out the number a lot because maybe we've got some doctors listening that typically wouldn't be calling in. But, we'd love to hear from you. If you saw this live, if you have any insight, if you are in the medical field and you want to weigh in, listen, any thoughts and prayers, any observations, 800-990-1047 is how you get into the program here, the MJ Morning Show. 800-990-1047.
So prior to this, Damar Hamlin had set up a GoFundMe page. It's called Chasing M's Foundation. It's a community toy drive for kids. And it has raised since last night.
All right, now hold on a minute.
This number's crazy.
Right, this is crazy. So before, do you have the number of what it was before he collapsed on the field?
It's
I don't
not
know
significant compared to what it is now.
The total goal
was $2,500.
Okay, so it's a fairly small GoFundMe goal.
All right, now, this Buffalo Bills player, Damar Hamlin, had like a toy charity drive, and he was trying to raise money online, and this was for, obviously, this past Christmas. And let me tell you what's absolutely insane, and this is what Roxanne is leading to, is that when word got out that he had a toy charity to try to give toys to underprivileged kids in the Buffalo area, as soon as word got out that he had this charity after the injury, it exploded. So, Roxanne, do you have the latest number?
Yes.
Do you have it on your computer?
Mm-hmm.
The goal was $2,500. And Roxanne, would you like to reveal what the current number is in this charity, where the goal was only $2,500?
$3,281,000.
Oh my gosh.
That's where they are.
Guess what? Now
$3 million.
it's higher. Fester just refreshed.
Yeah, refresh. It's
Fester just refreshed.
like $15 higher.
No, it's a little higher than that. Now it's $3,298,630.
Wow.
And it's just going to go higher. If you're listening to us later in the day on the podcast, it's going to be higher later on. So if I read his little description on his GoFundMe for his toy fundraiser, he wrote, "As I embark on my journey to the NFL, I will never forget where I came from, and I am committed to using my platform to positively impact the community that raised me. I created the Chasing M's Foundation as a vehicle that will allow me to deliver that impact, and the first program is the 2020 Community Toy Drive." So this goes back to, 2020. The campaign gives you the opportunity to contribute to our first initiative and positively impact children who have been hardest hit by the pandemic. 100% of the funds raised will go toward the purchase of toys for kids in need. So the initial goal was $2,500. I don't know where it was before he collapsed on the field last night, but right now it is almost $3.3 million with 128,200 donations at this point.
So this looks like an old post, an old GoFundMe page. And
Yeah.
the picture that he has of himself is him in his
In college days.
uniform.
Yeah.
It's a fairly small amount of money that he's trying to raise here. So people just searched him out on GoFundMe,
Right.
saw something that he did, and got behind this initiative.
And now his fundraiser has $3.3 million. That is unbelievable.
You think he could come back? There was a soccer player that had a cardiac arrest maybe a year and a half ago. He just dropped in the field. He had a heart attack, and he came back and he's playing again.
Listen, there's a possibility he comes back. I mean, it's too early. He could have been oxygen deprived. I mean, is his brain okay? Mm-hmm. Let's hope that, listen, even if he recovers from the heart condition, hopefully he didn't suffer any brain damage from loss of oxygen. Let's go to phones again. Would love to hear from any medical professionals or anyone that was watching this last night. But this mood, as far as professional sports go, the mood of the sideline reporters and Troy Aikman and Joe Buck and then Booger McFarland and Susie Colbert at ESPN. I mean, it was just so subdued. It was almost surreal. So if you want to phone in on this, any thoughts before we move on, 800-990-1047, 800-990-1047. Dina is in Lakeland. Hey, Dina, you're on the MJ Morning Show. Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
We're well. Go ahead.
I watched this last night, and it, like you just said, you took the words right out of my mouth. It was surreal. It was just like to see an ambulance come on that field, which I've never seen that in an NFL game, but to wonder the anguish on the players' faces, the fear, because it could be one of them, but most of all, his mom. To be his mom and in those stands and not able to get to him right away.
You know, Dina, this is another reason why I love taking phone calls, is because you just brought up another element, and I actually had this in my notes, but I forgot to mention it, that what Dina just said, he had family members in the crowd, and his mother came down to the field, and the word, Dina, is that his mother rode in the ambulance with him to the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, and thank God that they were able to get her to him like that. I mean, it's just to be in those stands and watch it unfold, see it happen, and you're just like, it's like an outer body experience for a mom, for anything with your child being hurt in any situation. But that had to be the worst feeling for her. And, you know, to see all the fans for the Bills and the Bengals show up at the hospital, you know, it just goes to show. I mean, there's power in prayer. So
the players crying, mother there. Listen, you bring the motherly aspect, and I can't even imagine. 24-year-old kid. He's a kid. 24 years old, and your mom has to witness that. And listen, let's just hope and pray that he'll recover from this. Hopefully, that his heart was not damaged. Hopefully, there's no brain damage from lack of oxygen. He was apparently defibrillated, shocked twice on the field, 9 minutes of CPR allegedly. And then reports are they put him in a medically induced coma at the hospital, and hopefully we'll have an update later on.
The television, you know, we were watching it on ABC, and they had the one player, Ryan Clark, and he was just like, who cares about the game? Yeah. It is not about this. It is about him.
Well, you had the analysts, you had analysts that were saying, what's taking the NFL so long to cancel the game?
Yeah. And that upset me, because I kept saying to my husband, what is there to think about? Shut this game down.
All right, there's a lot of things to think about instead of just running something. The teams went off the field. You know, and it's one thing to have something inside the locker room and then to announce it to the public. But they're not there to serve us.
But there was not official word. They did not officially announce the game was called. You saw, like, the Buffalo Bills team, like, equipment folks, they were packing stuff up before they actually officially canceled the game.
Yeah, so they know what's going on.
Yeah,
yes, they knew. We're not going to play. No matter what they did or said, these players were not going to play. Yeah. There was no way. The Bills team was just in too much pain and worrying about what mattered the most, which was Damar. So
Dina,
they should have just shut that game down right away.
Dina, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, guys.
Thank you for the motherly aspect, the motherly touch there. And we just haven't seen anything like this. And this was a game to determine top seed in the AFC. So when's this game going to be replayed? This puts, both teams are scheduled to play, this Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, one is going to play on Saturday, and I think the other one is not scheduled yet.
Yeah, the last week the NFL plays with the schedule. They're probably going to move both games back to Sunday now, and then they'll play hopefully sometime this week. if everybody can get together Wednesday, tomorrow.
I'm tired.
The official statement from the NFL last night. Tonight's Buffalo Bills-Cincinnati Bengals game has been postponed after Buffalo Bills' Damar Hamlin collapsed. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell announced Hamlin received immediate medical attention on the field by team and independent medical staff and local paramedics. He was then transported to a local hospital where he's in critical condition. Our thoughts are with Damar and the Buffalo Bills. We'll provide more information as it becomes available. So that was the official statement from the NFL. And he was taken to UCMC. It's the only, I guess, level 1 trauma center in Cincinnati.
It was apparently 2 miles from the stadium.
Yeah, it's very close. Yeah. And hopefully he got, treatment that will hopefully save his life. I mean, he is in critical condition, but hopefully there's no extensive heart damage. And, you got to wonder about his brain. Hopefully there was no brain damage that he suffered either. Anyway, thoughts, prayers with Damar Hamlin. And this rocked the entire country last night. As we've never seen this play out. There have been some gruesome injuries.
It's one thing to watch a guy get his leg broken.
Yeah.
You go, oh, he's screaming in pain.
Or a neck injury.
They cart him off.
Yeah, we've seen the neck injuries. They put the braces on. They cart him off. But, I mean, this is really somewhat unprecedented. We just haven't seen anything like this. And to have a Monday Night Football game canceled 5 minutes and 38 seconds into the first quarter, that's just unbelievable.
So according to Fox Business, at the beginning of the night, the charity was at $100,000.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I didn't know where it had started.
Right.
For his toy drive.
So now it's at $3.3 million. So it went up almost $400,000 in the 10 minutes that we've been talking.
I don't understand how it has to be an underlying condition, because think of all the boxers, the UFC guys kicking each other right in the chest.
It's just a trauma. It could happen to anybody if it hits you at the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, and what I had heard, again, I had some texts last night. My uncle's a cardiologist, that if you take a hit to the chest, if you get a jarring hit to the chest, and there's a certain point in a heartbeat where if you get hit, there's some blunt force trauma, and it's at just the precise moment in a heartbeat, just the correct microsecond, it can do something like this, and that clearly is what happened.
Well,
what looked like a routine hit.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a routine hit, so I would imagine it's going to scare a lot of football players. Like, oh, I hope I don't tackle this person right at the time that my heart's in the vulnerable beat mode.